Hey guys, this is Nick with EDC Mag, and today we're going to talk about another knife from Sick Boy Knife Works. Before we get into that, I want to give you guys a quick update on something. Back in November, I picked up a new watch from Geared Hardware. If you guys have seen that review or not. And I've been wearing it pretty much every day. Have been very impressed with it so far. It's held up. The glass still looks brand new. It's supposed to have a lifetime guarantee on it, and I've been pretty impressed with it. I just like the way it looks. I'm a big dude, and I'm a wide guy too, at the shoulder, so I'm constantly banging my watches into doorways and shelving and whatever the hell else gets in my space. So what I'm saying is I've been impressed with these with these watches. So I went ahead and went all in and picked up a couple more from Geared Hardware. And I've talked to the owner. He's a super cool guy. He's a Second Amendment guy, knife guy, bikes, hot rods. I mean, just the kind of guy you want designing your watches, or at least the kind of guy I want designing my watches. So what I picked up was the Stealth, which starts at about $190, and it's very similar to this model, except obviously it's all black, which I haven't always been a fan of all black anything, because I think it takes away from the design. You have to get right up close on a car or a knife, or a watch or a gun or whatever the case may be, in order to really appreciate the design when the whole thing is the same color. But some people, they live for it. That's all they want, and this kind of matches some of my knives lately. So absolutely beautiful watch, and you can find these on Geared Hardware, gearedhardware.com. So GEARD hardware.com. And this is called the Tank, and Oakley had something called a Time Tank, which they actually somebody threatened to sue them because the name was already taken, and they changed that to Minute Machine. But for us purists, Oakley purists, it'll always be the Time Tank. I'm not sure what this thing weighs. I like the name. I love the look. This is actually more comfortable on my wrist than this one. This is definitely my new favorite. Let's see. I don't know what this thing weighs. I'm guessing they all see. Okay. Well, it's the Tank, but it weighs 3.5 ounces. Okay. And I know this weighs more. I think this weighs, almost 5 ounces. So these watches weigh about the same as, say, a 3-inch, 3.5-inch knife, depending, in your pocket, but on your wrist. So very reasonable. They describe these watches as loud and bold, in-your-face designs, which I love. I think that's cool. But I don't think they're oversized. I've had watches in the past that were just big for the sake of being big, and I didn't really appreciate that, just for the sake of marketing. So hey guys, if you get a chance, if you follow me, EDC Mag, on Instagram, and you've seen my photos, you've probably seen these three watches in a lot more of my pictures lately. So if you get a chance, if you've been curious, if you like them, check them out on Instagram. Check them out on the worldwide interwebs. And like I said, so far I've been beating the hell out of mine, and it still looks new. One thing that I got as well is I got a few extra bands with this watch. This band came with. It's just been super comfortable, and with summer coming on, I really like this style of band because it's silicone. For me, it has a tendency to get a little warm. So I am going to mess around with some of the bands and play with those a little bit and see what I can do for the summertime. There you go, guys. Geared Hardware. Check them out. All right. Let's talk about This big dog right here. Now this is from Boy Knife Works. It's his Tanto, and that's the name of it. He's not real big on, apparently, on all kinds of wild names and Greek mythology and a lot of the things that other makers are, which is absolutely fine, because this, if nothing else, is absolutely definitely a Tanto. Now, I reviewed one of these back in October from my buddy CJ. He got one and sent it to me, and I reviewed it, and I was very impressed and surprised with it, and it kind of sold me on it. And I've bought many Tantos over the years, and for whatever reason, I like the look of them until I get them in hand, and then I just can't seem to get rid of them fast enough. Now, the one that he sent me was a 3.5 inch blade. This is actually a 4-inch blade. It is AEBL steel, and these were done a little differently in as far as the process goes. It's very similar to the last one, the 3.5 inch, except for me, this one doesn't feel as tall. Now, Jonathan Miller, he's out of Pennsylvania. These are USA made knives, and they are brutal knives. He may argue with me, and I don't have the 3.5 inch anymore, obviously, to compare, but this one doesn't feel as tall. It doesn't feel as tall in the scale. It doesn't feel as tall in the blade. So it's almost like he took that 4-inch, and when he stretched it out, he pulled it down a little bit. It definitely still fills your hand. This thing's a frame lock, flame titanium. And the way how these were made, these were ordered by a dealer, and they were ordered by Cutting Edge EDC. He ordered 6 at a time, and basically at Maker's Choice, Jonathan did the design. He made the decisions on how the designs were going to be. So I came into these knives kind of late. I wanted a thumb stud because I'm a thumb stud guy. I love the holes in the blades. I like multi-grinds on my knives. I like holes in my knives. I like stuff that breaks up the design, adds to the aesthetic a little bit. So I reached out and I was like, is there any way this can be a thumb stud? And he went back to Jonathan. So I was dealing with Cutting Edge. I was dealing with the dealer, not John himself. And, I could have been a dick and went right to Jonathan, but it's important when you're doing this kind of stuff to respect the process. So it's kind of like, when you're buying a house, you're not supposed to talk to the people that are actually buying your house. You use your agents. Whatever. Anyway, respect the process. So anyway, I went back to him and to Sam, and he said, no, man, it's too late. He's making these the way he's making them. But he went back and asked. He put one on for me, but it's not functional. The blades had already been heat treated. Everything had been done. They were in final assembly. However, that being said, I personally think it looks better with the thumb stud in it than without. I like thumb stud knives, and even though it's not functional because it wasn't designed to be a thumb stud knife, I still like the look of it. I think it looks great. So this thing is, it's a beast. It's, man, I've had so many Tantos, and this is honestly the first one, if you don't include the last one I got, the 3.5 inch that was CJ's. This is the first one I've ever gotten that I got out of the package and I just went, yeah, I'm keeping this thing. If you stab a tree with this, it's definitely going to stick. Or a truck, or a bulldozer, or, an aggressive cheesecake. This thing is just brutal. It is a beast. It's got a little jimping up here. I wish it had some back here. I really do, because this knife is big enough in the scale that you can kind of slide your palm back and still have plenty of space for grip to brace here. But if you really need to bear down, you've got that jimping up there. That's going to work just fine. And it's not fancy. There's not a lot of Mokutai, damn steel, and this and that. And the last one I had brass on it, which just looked absolutely stunning. But it was heavy, and brass is very heavy. So I think the 3.5 inch blade, and I do think it was taller than this one, but that 3.5-inch blade weighed like almost 10.5 ounces. I have not weighed this. I have no idea what it's going to weigh, so we're going to find that out together right now. I'm wagering, I don't know, you know, I think this might be a little, it's hard to say, maybe around 10 ounces. I don't think it's going to be heavier because it doesn't have all that brass. So 10.3, I think the 3.5-inch was 10.4. With the brass, that's going to make it, you know, quite a bit heavier. So this is just ever so slightly less, but you know, it's a 4-inch knife. It's not for your delicate suit wearing bankers. This is for go out in the shit and get aggressive. It's got some TI flame on it on the, I don't know if you can see that or not, on the back spacer. Did a little work on the clip, which is pretty cool. Nice design feature there. I love the collars. They've been flamed. You know, my dream, ideally, that would be functional. My fault, I didn't get involved soon enough. I had actually committed to a different knife that turned out to be not what I thought it was going to be, and by the time I got through all that process, and it's not something that I reviewed or that I'll ever talk about, I was a little far down the path on this, but luckily it was still available. Man, I do not regret getting this thing for a second. I mean, Jonathan hasn't been making folders that long comparatively, and he's got it figured out. I mean, these things are just so slick. There's no rough edges anywhere on his knives. There's no hot spots, which I kind of hate that term, but when I think hot spot, I think G10, which probably isn't. But this thing is just, every edge is addressed. Every edge is smooth. The grind on this thing is just gorgeous. Absolutely phenomenal. I love knives where you can see the grind. Just to give you an idea what we're talking about here, we'll whip out a few knives for this one. But here's our trusty Kershaw. So you got a 3.2 inch, you got a 4-inch. Definitely, absolutely much taller knife, as you can see. For your average 4-inch knife, this is going to be a little bit taller than I think average, but they're custom knives, so really, what's average? But here's a Ziba S5, just to give you a comparison. So you've still got the 4-inch blade, but you can see the difference in the height and the tallness of those blades. Just definitely a whole nother beast. You're probably looking, I don't know what this, I haven't weighed this one either yet, and this one I'm going to do a review on that coming up. On a side note, guys, I apologize for taking so long. It's been 5 or 6 weeks since my last review. It's life gets in the way when you're making other plans. But we've got some fantastic stuff going on. So let's see. Other thing I do love about this knife is this just so slight recurve. This thing could all, I mean, you can really see, actually this has a little bit of curve in it too, so that's a horrible example. Let's see. Oh, I know what. A lot of you guys have probably, just due to the price point and the fact that it's been out for so long, a lot of you guys have probably had a chance to handle or own a Fossil. So this will give you an idea, because the Fossil's 3.9 inch, so this is 4-inch. Kind of give you an idea of the difference in size. I mean, CRKT Fossil in itself is somewhat of a tall blade. I mean, comparatively, and not over the top tall, but nicely tall, I would say. I mean, this has always been one of my favorite production knives of all time. Someday I want to actually own the Icoma version of this, but Icoma, is that right? Yeah, I think so. But just an idea of the size. This thing's on bearings, and well, while we got that view, I think it's important you guys see that there is zero lock stick, just none. None. Brand new build. I mean, it got to Sam, it got to cutting edge, and he turned around because I was bugging the crap out of him. I hate to wait. And he turned around and sent it to me the same day. So it's, there was no issue there, and there was no issue on the last one. It was a new build as well. I'd give anything for this to function. There, of course, now it's going to function. I'm thinking maybe, ooh, hey, look at that shit. Woohoo! I've been thinking maybe as I break this in more, maybe that thumb stud would become a little more agreeable if I got the right angle on it. And sure as shit, I probably could have practiced this all morning. That just made my whole week right there. I'm going to tear up a little bit. Look at that. Forget everything I said. That's the first time that's actually happened without me having to grip from both sides simultaneously. So this thing, see, yeah, it's going to take a little bit. But I think that's a good sign. I think once this thing gets broken a little more, I think that thumb stud is going to work. I think you're going to have to learn to get the right angle on it. But man, that to me, that takes this knife to a whole other level. I enjoy my thumb studs. Well, there you go, guys. If you haven't heard of Sick Boy Knife Works, Jonathan Miller, check him out. He's got Sick Ass Knives, his Facebook group. He's got some stuff on YouTube. He's got, obviously, his Instagram. He is just turning out some very top-notch, top quality knives. Very impressed. You never know what you're gonna get, and at least I got to try one of these on someone else's dime, thanks to CJ. And if it hadn't already been spoken for, I probably would have tried to get it from CJ. However, I was in the right spot, right place, right time, and managed to get another one. And he's got some other designs. He makes stuff anywhere from, I think some of them are down around 3.1, 3.2 inch that are in a different blade design, different knife design. So he makes anything, there's something for everybody. But when it comes to the quality aspect of his knives, man, he is dialed in. There's no surprises. It's what you want it to be. It's what you think it's going to be and hope it's going to be. And I wouldn't be afraid to take this thing out in the shit and beat it, because you can just tell that's what it's made for. It's just a brute of a knife. If I was going to custom order one of these, I probably wouldn't do a whole lot different than what it is. I mean, the design is good. The last one had a frag pattern, which was phenomenal as well. I'd probably add some more jimping up here and maybe do something a little more aggressive with the backspacer. But those would be little custom touches that only an individual would like. I still got faith now that thumb stud's going to work great. So yeah, guys, check out John, check out Sick Ass, his group Sick Ass Knives, Sick Boy Knife Works. He's on the internet. Check out his homepage or webpage, sickboyknifeworks.com, and give him a look, because he's making some ridiculously cool shit. And if you want a knife if you're willing to invest the money, I mean, this isn't a CRKT, this isn't a Spider No. But if you want to spend some money on something that's going to last you a long time, I mean, it's something you can hand down to your kids. Literally, that thing's going to last a lifetime. I have no doubt about it. And that's another thing about John. He saw me talking to somebody in a group about the fact that the thumb stud was non-functional. He reached out to me. He wanted to make sure I wasn't unhappy with the knife, which I'm not in any way. And, said if you ever need anything done to it, if you ever need to send it in for a spa day or whatever the case may be, just hit me up and I'll take care of you. So he definitely takes care of, follows up, services his knives. And very happy, man. Very, very happy. It seemed like late last year, early this year, I got some knives in that were just absolute crap. And, there's no point in putting those on camera and just bagging the shit out of them. I mean, that doesn't help me, doesn't help you. doesn't help the maker or manufacturer either. You know, there's just certain things that just shouldn't be, I don't know, put out in production. But man, when you get a hold of something like this that just fulfills and meets every expectation, it's a joyful thing. So check out Jonathan Miller. Check out Geared Hardware. It's Geared Hardware, GEARD hardware.com for some really cool, I would say fairly industrially strong watches. This glass, I think it's called Hard X or something like that. It's lifetime guaranteed. And these two, another thing cool about this, I mentioned in my last review, these watches they have Japanese movement, but they're designed here, they're assembled here, so more or less I would consider these USA made. As much as a knife where a maker maybe buys his screws in Japan or some shit like that. So for more intents and purposes, these are US made watches. There's not a lot of those out there. So all right, guys. Hey, listen, I appreciate you guys watching and sticking with me. If you haven't subscribed, please do. We're having a lot of fun. I'm going to do my damnedest to make better time to get reviews out more often. I was trying to do one every week, every 2 weeks. That is definitely my intention and my goal. I've got some really cool stuff that I want to show you guys coming up. And depending on how the week goes, if I'm going to try to either do something again later on this week or hopefully early next week. We'll see how it goes. But if you haven't subscribed, please do. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a great one.